Welcome to the Trend Detection Podcast, powered by Siemens.
Welcome to the Trend Detection Podcast, powered by Siemens. I'm your host, Ksenia, and during today's episode, we will be diving into one of the most impactful, yet sometimes overlooked aspects of digital transformation, integration. And to help us explore this topic, I am joined by a wonderful guest, Konstantin, lead engineer for digitalization, who brings deep expertise and hands-on experience in making integration a reality for small and medium enterprises. So thank you very much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Would you like to first introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, sure. I would love to. So as you already said, my name is Konstantin Kobel, and I'm a lead engineer for digitalization at Siemens. For the past 8 years, I've been working on various digitalization projects, all of them with a focus on cloud and edge computing. And in all of these projects, the primary goal is always to collect production data, to pre-process this data, and to then extract some value from this data.
And that is exactly our today's topic. And I'd say we just get started. And my first question to you is why integration is so critical for SMEs today?
Yeah, I mean, integration is essential because it connects disparate systems, tools, and also data sources. And this enables a unified access to your data. What we often see is that small and medium-sized enterprises, they have sometimes many different data silos with different purposes that have all been created with different use case in mind. So you can think of it like there has been a data silo that has been created for artificial intelligence, and then somebody also wanted to extract some information from this aspect of production. So these data silos have been built up historically, and while their use cases might have been fulfilled, a bigger picture is oftentimes missing. And this leads to, for example, data duplicates. This also makes it a very time-intensive and in general resource-intensive process if you want to access specific data. So to summarize it, if you have integration for small and medium enterprise customers, it means faster decision making. It also means less manual work, and you can use your resources more efficiently, which is all, I think, very crucial for staying competitive. And of course, one aspect that we'll also talk about is cybersecurity and why integration is so important for cybersecurity.
I totally agree with you, and I think it's actually pretty surprising how many companies still rely on manual processes that can easily be automated with integration.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and it's not always just about technology. Sometimes it's also about getting different departments to talk to each other and align on their goals.
Exactly, yeah. When we talk about integration with our customers, we have a specialized approach that tackles exactly this problem, that the parties don't talk to each other and that they have not aligned goals. Yeah.
So this then brings me to my next question. How does Siemens approach integration tailored to the needs of SMEs?
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about integration with our customers, we know that every customer and every setup is different. So it's always our priority to deliver a solution that is, first of all, of course, technically cutting edge, but we will also have a heavy focus on modularity, scalability, and we want to make a solution that fits into the existing infrastructure. It's not always a goal to rethink the whole process, but we want to build something that really where we can take the customer from where they are. So what we try is to really evolve with the customer instead of doing a full system replacement. And one step, or the first step that we usually do here, is that we start talking to the customer. We usually start talking in an initial workshop where we bring all the departments and all the parties inside a customer on one table, and we talk about their needs and their goals, and also about their use cases. And once we did this in a workshop, then afterwards we take those needs and use cases, and based on that, we do a concept that fits this needs and use cases. And what we often see in these initial workshops is that it's oftentimes the first time that all of these departments and all of these parties are talking to each other. What happens really often is that one department has a need or a use case, and they try to solve it themselves. So they build a data silo, and then with some tools to analyze the data that's stored there. So this first workshop is really crucial for, first of all, getting the individual parties to talk to each other, but also to figure out the needs and use cases that are there for integration. So it's really, this is the kickoff, I would say, for this transformation we're doing with the customer, where we really take the customer by the hand and guide them through this transformation process.
Totally. I think one thing we've learned so far from working with SMEs across various industries is that integration isn't like one size fits all game, and flexibility here, it's actually everything. So yeah, that's why the human element, like understanding workflows, challenges, and people, it is just as important as the technical side of the game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that's also what we learned during these workshops, exactly what you said, that while the technical side is, of course, very important, the human side is just as important.
But now then, I'm really curious if you can share an example with me where this kind of integration really made a significant difference for a company.
Absolutely, yes. One very prominent case that we had was a company from the electronics vertical who wanted to store the process data from their production in one central place. And one issue they had was that in the case of warranty claims, they had to manually collect the data from all of their machines and then search through this data for what aspects they were looking for. And for each warranty claim, this meant an effort of around 9 man days. So 3 people were working for 3 days to collect the data and to then look through the data to actually find what they were looking for. And with this integration solution now in place, the customer was able to reduce this effort to one query, which now takes a few seconds to run. So for this customer, integration is already really making a change today.
Yeah, I think it's a really impressive example of how integration, is not just an IT upgrade, but rather a transformation that can ripple through operations and customer service alike. And, we can just imagine saving 9 man days per warranty case for any SME is going to be a huge deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is one of the benefits of integration, that you don't have to do this data handling, for example, anymore. You can really focus your resources, also well-experienced resources. They can focus on key business and to focus on actually bringing your USP forward, instead of just dealing with data handling tasks and finding the right data. And I think especially for small and medium-sized enterprises, this can really be a huge benefit.
Totally. Good, but now maybe let's talk about the roadblocks. What are the most common challenges that SMEs face when started their integration journey?
Yeah, I mean, since I'm the one responsible for implementing these projects, I can tell you about lots of challenges. But I think many challenges that we often face are, for example, legacy systems that are still in place. We have siloed data that needs to be connected somehow. And there's also often lacking concepts, for example, in the production network of the customer, which not only poses risks to their security, but also makes it harder to actually connect all the systems that the customer wants to be connected. And I think one very interesting aspect is also the fact that oftentimes we're faced with social challenges. We've seen it in many companies, and I already said in the beginning that we have different departments within companies, and they have, of course, different use cases, different needs, but they don't always talk to each other. And especially when we're talking about data integration, getting data, utilizing data, we see it very often that there's no aligned goal, there's no aligned way forward. So each department does their own thing, and we again end up having data silos. So as I said in the beginning, this is really one reason why we have this workshop in the beginning, to basically catch up with everyone who's involved, who has something to say in regards to integration, and to really bring all the stakeholders to the table, consider all the needs, and then to create a final concept based on that.
Yeah, I think it's, always really interesting to see how much of the challenge is actually internal, like siloed thinking or misaligned goals between departments. But would you also consider costs to be another challenge for SMEs?
Yeah, I mean, I think costs and especially also complexity in general are always something that you might worry about when you talk about integration. And I think one aspect here is that if you have this fear or if you're afraid of the cost or the complexity, having really an experienced partner like Siemens that can take you by the hand, that can guide you through this transformation process is key, I think. And also, our approach considers every customer's possibilities and also their resources. And based on that, we define a way forward together. Because integration doesn't always have to be a huge project that changes everything within a company. It can really start with just one machine, and then we go from there step by step. So integration can really be a year-long change process in your company, because that's also the nice thing. When you go along over years, you find new use cases. Maybe the use cases you defined in the beginning, they're not relevant anymore because you already figured out another way to do it. But you find new use cases and they can also be integrated here. So I think that's also a big part here. It sure is complex, but having the right partner and taking the time to change is also very important here, I think.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you here. Good, but now maybe let's shift focus a bit and look inside the organization. So, what happens to collaboration when data silos break down?
Yeah, I mean, what we all know, and I guess also the audience that's listening to us right now, that data is the new gold. However, just data is not enough. You really need to utilize this data efficiently and extract its real value. And what happens quite often, or also what we see quite often, is that, as I said, different groups and different departments, they collect their data and they look at this data from one angle. And they might have even done this for years. So you really have years and centuries of expertise in looking at exactly this data. But I think the true value is really derived from data when we look at it from different angles. And integration is a great way to this because when you have all your data from your production integrated in one system, you have it in one place, and all of the tools are connected to this data in one place. You find new aspects, you get new insights, and you can really find also new value in your data. And the also integration allows you to not only have real-time data of your machines, but also historical ones. So you can compare, for example, your production right now with the production of how it was 5 years ago, and then see what improved, but maybe also what didn't improve, and where you can still have a look at. So integration really allows you to look at data from different angles and also to look at it with different people. As I said in the beginning, departments oftentimes work on their own. And I think if we share this data and we can also have another department look at the data and have them have their own interpretation and then also ask some questions, that's where real value comes up. It's also something we see quite often when we just ask very, very objective questions, even without domain knowledge. Sometimes these questions are real kickoffs for the actual domain experts to rethink the process and to rethink how they do things.
Exactly. So, I think when people from different functions can actually access the same data, then you finally get the synergy. And, suddenly all the teams are working off the same playbook, and this is really powerful.
Yeah, it's really what I said in the beginning with the workshop. The first thing we really want to do is to bring all the stakeholders to one table, to talk about their needs and use cases, to talk about what we want to implement here. And usually, when you have this data collection, when you have all this production data, they start talking to each other, and you really find these benefits and also this collaboration based on the data.
Okay, and then speaking of the shared systems, actually, what about security? How does integration affect cybersecurity?
Yeah, I mean, for everything in technology, cybersecurity is the basis, and it also is for integration. And I think in the whole integration process, cybersecurity is always considered heavily. And what we see quite often is that the integration actually improves cybersecurity. We've talked a lot about data silos and siloed data. And this is also one thing that happens during these initial workshops, that we find new data silos. Oftentimes, departments or parties, they start talking about new data silos. They set up once and forgot about it or are still using it. However, IT, for example, doesn't know about it. So IT cannot govern them, cannot protect them. So if you have this one central integration solution in place, you can really easier secure this solution, and you can also centralize governance as well as, of course, also access control. So instead of multiple points of vulnerability, you have one coordinated defense strategy. And as I said, this really uncovering the data silos and connecting them into one solution is also a huge benefit to cybersecurity in a company.
Yeah, and I think it's counterintuitive to some people, but integration actually often improves security. And once you are being able to centralize and harmonize all of your access, then you reduce the risk from rogue systems or from shadow IT.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what we see in these workshops. So in this sense, really, I think cybersecurity is very important to integration, but I also think that integration is very important to company cybersecurity.
And as you know, one of the key factors for SMEs is scalability. So can you share with me how integration can actually contribute to a company's growth potential?
Yeah, I mean, in our industrialized world, margins have become very slim. And I think we all know it here in this podcast. I think also our audience knows it. If you really want to improve your processes or also your product quality, the improvements are not found that easily anymore. We really need to look at things. We really need to dig into the data to find some improvements. And especially here, data has become the main decision-making basis for improvements of any kind. So integration can really be the foundation for these improvements, be it in the production process or in the product at all. So yeah, this is one aspect where integration can really be a benefit. And also, in addition, as a company grows, new systems and tools can be added into an integrated landscape way more easily without disrupting operations. We have it right now with large language models. We had it a few years ago with artificial intelligence. All of these new technologies are coming very fast to us. And if you have a landscape that's already integrated, that's ready for these new tools, of course, it's way easier for you to adapt these new technologies and really use their benefits than when you have to first search for all your data and then connect it somehow and to try to make it work. So really, when you have an integration solution in place, it's really like a plug and play infrastructure where you can just add pieces and remove pieces as you need it.
For sure. I think this scalability piece is really important. And, you know, SMEs often they grow fast, but their systems don't always keep up. And with the right integration, finally they can avoid the growing pains and can just focus on scaling value and not the complexity.
Yeah, so really integration builds the basis for scalability and growth, in my opinion.
But growth also depends on staying ahead of trends. So how does integration future-proof SMEs for emerging technologies?
Yeah, I mean, as I just said, I think once systems are integrated, it's really way easier to adopt new technologies. I said already, artificial intelligence. We also have, for example, cloud-based analytics. All of these technologies that are already available today and that have already proven their benefit, you can really use them way more easily if you have an integration solution in place. So integration is not only about connecting today's tools and about connecting today's machinery, but it's also about being ready for tomorrow's possibility. And also one thing especially when talking about artificial intelligence, one thing that we have to consider is that when we talk about artificial intelligence, you not only need current data, but the more data you can get, the better the artificial intelligence is in the end. So what we're also trying to say here is that historical data can be very, very valuable for training in artificial intelligence and is actually essential. So if you really want to use these technologies like artificial intelligence to its fullest, you need all the data you can get. And therefore, having this extensive data collection, this extensive data pool in an integration solution can really leverage this potential to another level.
Do you have an example use case where AI utilizes data from an integration solution?
Yes, of course. So one solution that we have at Siemens, it's called Senseye. It's an application that focuses on predictive maintenance. This means that based on the machine data, a baseline is being created for that machine or also for the whole process. And once parameters from the machine deviate from the baseline, an anomaly has been detected and the customer is being notified about it. So what Senseye does is that just by looking at the machine data, it's able to predict anomalies, meaning, first of all, of course, you can avoid downtimes, but anomalies can also be some things that are starting to slowly fall apart. Like, for example, some machine part that's maybe running out of bounds. So this is exactly where Senseye steps in and where Senseye is able to detect these faults before they actually happen and before they, for example, cause a downtime in your production.
And how do you typically see integration pay off for SMEs, both in numbers and in impact? What is the return on investment that companies can expect from integration?
I think the return of investment that you can expect from integration includes, first of all, operating costs, because you have easier data handling. And the use case I talked about in the beginning, where it takes 9 man days to collect some data and to extract some information from it, you don't have that anymore. So you have easier data handling. Here you are less resource intensive. You have less systems that you need to operate and also worry about in the sense of cybersecurity. You can expect fewer downtimes because of cases, like I said, with Senseye, where you really analyze your machines, you understand your machines better, and thanks to data transparency, you also have the potential for analytics, which can again find problems not only in the machine but also in the process and in the production, and therefore you can also improve productivity thanks to a better understanding of your machines and of your whole process. So I think this optimization potential and also the resources you save with integration are one return of investment. Um, some key phrases that we often use here are reliability and availability. But apart from this, another aspect that you gain is that and I think also it's hard to put into numbers, but I think you also gain innovation because, as I said in the beginning already, integration and also the data behind it you get really helps you to better understand your product and to find also improvements. So you find improvements in your production process, in the product itself, also in the product quality, for example. There's also another return of investment that you can gain from integration. But in general, also beyond numbers, the return of investment also comes in terms of agility and also resilience. So as you said in the beginning, small and medium enterprises, they can pivot faster in response to market changes, for example, and they can also make better and more informed decisions based on data and are less prone also to cybersecurity threats, for example.
Yeah, and let's not forget that in today's market, being agile is actually its own ROI. So the faster you respond to change, the more resilient your business becomes.
Totally, yeah.
Okay, so maybe let's end with something more fun. Maybe you can share with me what was the coolest project that you did lately?
Yeah, one project that is really stuck in my mind is a project from Austria. This project included, first of all, collecting data from multiple drive systems and collect it in one central place. Then we also wanted to analyze this data with our solution for predictive maintenance. I already talked about it. It's called Senseye. And then we also wanted to proactively support the customer in the case of detected anomalies. And for this, we used a service solution called shop floor monitoring services. So as a result, what we did is we, first of all, collected the data from the drive systems. Then we provided this data to this predictive maintenance solution, Senseye, and Senseye built a baseline. And once this data or the parameters from the machine are running out of bounds, Senseye detected an anomaly. But we didn't want to stop there and just point the customer towards something wrong in their production. We also wanted to actually support them in the case of something wrong. This is where shop floor monitoring services comes into play. Because what we can do with this is, first of all, you can get customized notifications when something is being detected, but you also have the possibility to request support from Siemens with the click of a button. So whenever something occurs in your production process and you're not quite sure how to handle it, you can just click a button and a Siemens service engineer will be notified. They will get a ticket and they will come help you as soon as possible and will resolve the issue with you. So you can really utilize also Siemens service engineers in your maintenance process here.
Wow, yeah, I mean, this is integration in action, from data collection to real-time insights to proactive service. And I think it's a great reminder of what is possible when you actually combine technology with the right mindset.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why this project came into my head when you asked me this question, because I like this project so much because it really includes all of the latest technology that we always talk about at Siemens, and it shows how you can combine this technology to really provide a great benefit to the customer. And I think it also shows that, integration doesn't always have to be the whole company. It doesn't always have to be a huge project. It can really provide a benefit for every company, even starting with just a few machines. And no matter which way you choose, Siemens has the right sized portfolio, the right sized solution for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Would you like to close the topic of integration with some final words from your side?
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, digital transformation, as I just said it always sounds huge. It always sounds like you're changing your whole company, like your whole production process is going to be different after your project is finished. But I really think that small steps can really provide already huge benefit, as I already talked about in the questions before. So I know integration is oftentimes not the number one priority in companies, but especially when you have daily business running, you need to keep the machinery alive. But really, even small steps, connecting a few machines to a centralized integration solution, can already provide huge benefits. And yeah, that's kind of the final message I would give. Please really think about your integration, and even small steps can really help here.
Well, thank you very much, Konstantin, for joining us today. And for our listeners, if you have any questions or want to dive deeper into a specific use case, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. Until next time, take care and keep innovating.
Please like and subscribe on all major podcast channels and find out more about Senseye Predictive Maintenance at Siemens.com.